So now let's do the same thing using chem majors as our audience. So how do I change now? I can't obviously give the same thing as I did for Gen Chem. The chem majors, as I said, as a junior, the final year, they went through Gen Chem, they passed, and then they took some advanced labs and courses and other things in chemistry. And so they're much higher level than at Gen Chem. So you don't have to tell certain things to that. But you may have to tell something else because you still have the same amount of space to fill, right? So take something out and add something in. What do my audience know? The same question I'm asking. And what interactions exist? And so they know that there is electron sharing, and there is a covalent bond, and you have certain distances, electron repulsion, and nuclear repulsion. So they are taught all this stuff. So now they are much higher level than Gen Chem. So they would know this. What they may not know? They may not know that this is actually equilibrium bond length. It's not static, it's dynamic, and the two atoms are vibrating, and so the internuclear distance is changing. So in other words, the molecule is moving on the surface. So we start talking about that, moving on the smooth surface. We call this potential energy surface. It's a one-dimensional potential energy surface. Now we start telling the same thing, much higher level, and more consistent with modern chemistry, right? So you could do the equilibrium bond length, bond dissociation energy. How is the bond energy determined? So this gap from 0 to the minimum, that is the bond energy. And the distance from 0 to the minimum here, that is the bond length. So this is how actually they are defined experimentally. You can measure this, you can compute this, and then get the bond energy, bond lengths from the computations and measurements. And what do they like or dislike? They like simple graphics. As usual, they hate complex equations. That's as usual as we discussed before. So that's general to most audiences. How do you motivate them? I think it's the same thing. And I put in the purple, those are the ones that are differing, okay? And the red, of course, is common to, so the purple. Getting a good grade, understanding chemistry, what is the nature of the chemical bond, and of course they can measure, so they're really interested in chemistry, otherwise they wouldn't have taken the courses for that and be there. And what were the benefits of the audience? Explore the details of chemistry. Now they're really interested in knowing more about chemistry. It's beyond just earning a good grade, but earning a good grade is still one of the important motivations for all of us, all students, and so on and so forth. How to articulate the details may not like. Again, most potential is explained as a graph, and potential just surfaces are explained now. And so as one-dimensional surface is actually a multi-dimensional surface, but we are simplifying it by taking a cross-section of a 3D surface and showing one cross-section of it. So you can go into these details, next higher order details about this to make them more excited. Because if you tell the same thing as Gen Chem, then they get bored, right? Because you now prepare them at higher level. What is at stake? Same thing, quiz, exam, etc. What would be inspiring? Now you can say, hey, as a chemist, you really need to understand what controls a chemical reaction. Here is the secret. If you know this, you will be a successful chemist. This is how you can motivate them, or many other ways you can motivate them, right? So you figure out your angle, how you're going to motivate them. This is my angle of motivating them. So how to read minds of my audience. Again, we talked about that. And so as you can see, based on your audience, their interests, dislikes, the level of their expertise, you write the document differently. You cannot write the same thing and give it to everybody, okay? So this is how a good communicator will tailor the document to their, and I do this all the time when I give a talk at other departments. The first question I ask, what are my audiences? Are they chemists, biologists, is mixed, and graduates, undergraduates, postdocs, faculty, what is it? Or technicians, or who are my audience? And then based on that, I change my slides and then add details or remove details or whatnot. So this is just necessary if you want to do it right. Okay. And you want to do it right to get a good grade. That's your motivation. So now you have done audience analysis, but then that's not done yet. Okay, you need to do self-analysis as well. Only then you can do this a good job. And I'm sure a lot of people didn't tell you about this in writing courses. But this is really important, I think. I've learned this, and this helps. What do I know about the topic? This is a really important question to ask. There's a lot of things we don't know when we start reading a new topic. And so write down, what is a microplastic? What is a nanoplastic? How does it get here? How is it decomposed from an object, say milk can, to a micro particle? How does it come that way? And what happens if once it is landed in the ocean? What is its fate? And what's the health effects? It's all the kind of things. There's a lot of questions I don't know about, so I'm starting learning now. So you can say, what do I know about the topic? I know this, this, this. I don't know that. And a good person, a good scientist knows what they don't know. And that's a really good sign that's a scientist is a really good one. Okay, if they know what is it that they don't know. So it sounds funny, but it's true. And it's also true that more you know, you realize you know less. It's all ironic, but this is how it is. This is true. And what else do I know or need to know about the topic? So you have to read these things, and how it is decomposed, how it is transported, how it is accumulated, how it is degraded. So like that, you can make questions that you need to answer. And what are the details I need? A lot of them. You're beginning out, so you need a lot of details. So you make a list of details and cross them out. I got this, I got this, I got it. I couldn't find this, I got this, I couldn't find this. So, whom should I consult for the details that are not clear to me? Because you're learning by yourself, okay? I'm not going to teach that whatever topic you want to pick, right? So you're going to learn this by yourself. So there will be some problems, but I will be here to help you and answer your questions as best I can. But you can also consult others. There are polymer chemists and environmentalists and biologists might know something about this, and that can consult and ask them, look, how do you explain this? What does this graph mean? And they may be able to help you with that. Align the content of the topic in a thread. So that means a scientific argument, which means abstract, introduction, experimental results, discussion, conclusions, citations. We will go through this structure many, many times to reinforce the idea that every science document has a structure like that. It's not that you just write conclusions first and then throw some results and then give experimental somewhere else, and then you write results. It doesn't work like that. So that is scientific thought. So first you tell what the problem is. Then you tell how you try to solve the problem. Then you tell what did you find while you're trying to solve the problem. And then you tell what does that mean? What those results that you got tell you, and how do those results compare with the literature? That's discussion. And then in the end, you wrap up everything and say, what are your conclusions? Okay, you did all this stuff. What do you think in the end? What happened? So that's your conclusion. So like this is a scientific evolution of thought, and it is a scientific argument. So it has a specific structure. Yeah, true that the structure changes in some details from journal to journal. It's a book versus publication or paper, but every science document has usually a well-defined structure, and you have to follow that. And it is something along these lines. So align the contents into a thread, and that thread is science investigation thread. What depth and breadth do I need? This is really tough to tell. But again, audience analysis will help you say, no, you don't need to do this much depth. I don't need to tell Gen Chem students they have a multi-variable potential energy surface that the molecule is traveling on. I can simply use one-dimensional picture and don't even tell them it's a one-dimensional potential energy surface. Just tell them a curve. That's enough. So I need to figure out what to tell, what to keep. Okay. And what is the format, length, time? And timeline is really important. Format, I will tell you what the format is, I will tell you what the length is, but timeline is also, I'm going to tell you, you have this deadline for the rough draft and revised draft, etc. So we have that for the course. Usually that's the same with journals. A lot of them have certain deadlines and you want to submit or revise within that time scales, etc. Some journals you can submit anytime. Some proposals you can submit anytime, but some agencies want proposals by a certain deadline. So, and they cannot be moved. And late submission are never good in the course or in real life. And they generally have a negative impact on your performance or in a grade. So stick to deadlines, be aware of them. Okay, So that's your self-analysis, mean getting to know yourself, right? So this is really important. So I think in this course, you learn more about yourself by the end of the course than the topic you picked. So you'll see how. So we'll take a break and then we'll continue a few more slides and we are done. So we'll reassemble at 303. 303. Okay, so the first step I want to describe here is organize yourself, your project. And the way I found the best to do that is to create what is called a project management table, PMT. And what that is, basically, it's a table on Excel, and it tells you all the tasks you need to do, all the times they're due, and what's missing, what's you need to do. You can write them all out. It's like a laundry list, essentially, but very sophisticated. It's a two-dimensional laundry list. And it helps by just looking at it, you could tell how much progress you made and what items you still have to do, what items you have done, because you can color code them. Green means done, red means not done, yellow means in progress. So you could easily tell, what you still have to do on a large project like this, whole semester project. So it's difficult to track everything and by just remembering, right? So you want to track it on an Excel sheet, and this really helps. And I will show you more details about what I'm talking about. So as you prepare for the topic, you can update your Excel sheet. So then you understand, yeah, I did this, that. So you also get an idea how much more to do, how much more time it's going to take, right? So a lot of the time we think that, yeah, I can do this quickly, but you realize as you keep going, that it's taking more time than you thought. So then maybe you have to change your goals and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to write all that, so I'm going to write only third of it or half of it. So it helps you do that because it tells you progress, a function of time, and then what items you could do, how much you could do in that time. And within this, you also make a rough outline within it. Say, for example, you get headings and subheadings for your topic. Good idea. Start with the title, put a few headings that you think you have done, and one column of headings, one column subheadings, one column subheadings, another column of ideas that you want to incorporate into that. And so like this, I will show you an example how all these different columns work out as well, probably in the next class. But now I will show you more simpler project management table. Okay, so headings and subheadings are really important. The timeline is important. Mark your progress. Green tells you have done it already. Yellow is in progress. Meeting the deadline, your project is a very important goal. So color code them. And a lot of the time people don't take it seriously that, oh yeah, I can give it the day after the deadline. No, we don't take anything after the deadline. The National Science Foundation does not take any proposals after the deadline. Even if you miss by 10 seconds, they return the proposal. And it happened to one person, one of the faculty here on the University of Connecticut campus. You spend months writing a proposal, it's a multi-million-dollar proposal to National Science Foundation to do this or that, whatever. And then you put all that together and you upload. And then the university has to upload and they have to approve it. And then they have to send the approval to the National Science Foundation. And then the computers in National Science Foundation, they have to accept what you uploaded and they have to send you a receipt back. And all this has to happen within the deadline, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the person submitted the proposal days before or whatever, hours before, and then the university went through its, process, and then they submitted to the foundation. And then the foundation is very busy. Everybody is submitting their proposal last minute. So the computers are clicking, and by the time we sent the acknowledgement back, it was 5 or 10 seconds late, past 5 o'clock. And the agency rejected the proposal. Okay, that's enough because it's beyond the time limit. And so now he has to wait for an entire year. So he lost a whole year. It's like missing your final exam. You have to retake the whole course again. So this is mind-boggling. So people are very, very tough about deadlines, and they really want you to honor them. So it's same in this course. We will not take anything after the deadline. If you want to give me before, that's okay. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I had a conflict that day, I cannot do it." Okay, they do it the day before. It's okay. I'll do it the week before. That's okay. I have to travel. I'm going on a cruise. People are asking all this. I'm going on a cruise. I cannot submit this. Will you take it after I come back? So, no. I will take it before you go on cruise. That's okay. So really people take seriously the deadlines in real life, right? And the real life deadlines cannot be moved. And I can't tell you enough why that is really important. And I give recommendations to people applying for jobs, and the employer always asks me whether the student can complete the task within the time scale given, or they keep asking for extensions. And so this is really something the employers also worried about, because it takes them more time, they spend more money, and it costs them more. And so timeline is important, deadline is very important. And so most interesting instructors may deduct some points for it, but I don't. So submit in time, or otherwise we will not consider them. So we have a deadline coming up, the rough draft on October 8th. And so we still have a lot of time, it's a month, but you will be surprised how quickly that deadline approaches. So I will keep reminding you and keep preparing you. So making the project management table is the third step now. So first, literature search, collect references, read through, write abstracts, collect them together, understand what they're going on, figure out what you don't understand yet, and what you need to read, what you need to search for. Then do audience analysis, do your own analysis, self-analysis. And then the next step is now building a project management table where you put out all the things you need to do in written form, in a text or graphic form. Okay. So here is an example I just put together quickly as an example of project management table. So one column, it has kind of things that we want to ask, questions. And I work the best by question answer way, because that gives me a nice way to connect things and ask more questions and so on. And then how the answer, here is the answer relating to that question. And then some timeline. So as I was saying, primary search, secondary search, identify the topic, and finally finalize the topic. You have a target date, 4th September, primary search was done. SciFinder we did on the 7th of September. When done, you generate green, means that I've done these 2 tasks, so finish those 2 items here. And you can come back here and say, I've written just a few questions here. You can write whatever. Better to write the same questions I gave you in the audience analysis and self-analysis, then you are on track exactly as you need to be. What my audience know, bond energy, bond length, say for 1, Gen Chem or high school, whatever, right? And what interests them, how atoms form bonds. So this way you go back and forth thinking about your process, you get better and better. And you come up with better answers for those questions rather than the first round. And what would they like? Simple graphics, right? What would they not like? Complex equations. So I'm trying to summarize your thoughts in this tabular form. So when you start writing, you keep these things in mind. Then you can't go wrong. Now, how to motivate them and tell them the benefits and how to articulate well, convert equations to graphics is a really, really nice way of doing that. Smooth color, beautiful color graphics, multiple colored graphics, and concepts to graphics. Try as much as possible using graphics as your tool, communication tool, and give detailed explanations, but they should be simple. They need not to be too long, then people will get lost. And so think about how do I simplify this? And sometimes giving examples simplifies. So give example, and what is at stake for them? For them, it's a grade. But in your classmates reading this, what is at stake for them? Really nothing, because if they learn what you did or not, it doesn't matter to them. But it matters to you, because If they don't understand, they're going to give you a bad grade on your rough draft or peer review or whatever it is, right? So it's actually a stake for you, not for them. What would inspire them? So in this particular topic I picked, it inspires them to think about environment, how we are destroying the environment by putting all this plastic in. And we don't know health hazards yet, but we do know that it is really causing havoc on animals, sea life, and so on and so forth. And so it is really not a great thing to do for the environment. We want to live on this planet. How to read their minds. So again, you figure these out, and then this is your strategy. These are all your strategy components. So Ben asked, how do I go about doing this? So this is how you start doing stuff. And we'll go into the next level as well. And as we proceed into the next next class and so on. But so now once you figured out, these are my audience, they know this, they don't know this, and I know this, I don't know this, and I have to do this, I have to do that, all that is there. So now how do you adapt to your audience? What that means is now you take all your information, then you now shape it in a way your audience will love it. Okay, so there's some tricks to do this. So one efficient way to engage your audience is to interview them. And so as I said before, it's really tough to do, but if you can, do that. Talk to your friend. At least you could give your rough draft to your dorm mate or classmate or your housemate or whatever, and ask them, hey, read this and tell me what you think about it, right? So that's good. That's actually provides really good feedback a family member and ask them to comment on it. That's perfectly fine. So you give you opinion about your writing. Include some variety in your list of people you're going to interview if you do interview or sample. And broader the sampling, the better the you can be. But don't get lost. Don't waste too much time on that process. Get going, and we give you feedback from the class itself. So you, in a way, your draft will be peer reviewed by your class. So you're interviewing a class in that way. So they're going to give you feedback. So we have built-in mechanism for you to interview audience here. If you don't have time to interview, opportunity to interview, then ask a friend to read. So, and our peer review will serve this purpose as well. And ask them to comment with documents and needs and expectations. And I'm going to give you a list of things that they need to check and to make sure your document is up to the snuff. And so I will share that document with you so you know exactly what they're going to measure against. And repeat this multiple times. First revision, second revision, third revision. I do this. Sometimes we go through 18 revisions before we submit to the journal. So this is common. You're never done by just writing once. You're never done. So you have to keep writing it many, many times. Remember I said, writing is a true discovery. Unless you discover something you have not written. That means you'll keep doing this again and again until you discover something. Then yeah, now I really understand what happened, and my audience will know what is happening. And this is a new discovery that has come out of this. So there will be opportunities to review document, as I said, by your class and me as well. And so we're going to give feedback. So you have an opportunity to revise, take that opportunity seriously, and keep going with it. Okay. If you prepare well for your audience, the documents will come out really well. So update your PMT as you pass through these steps. I think this is your last or so. Then get into action, make the PMT, do search, and get your references. Write abstracts, do audience and self-analysis. Just same thing I just told you. Do audience adaptation. So what they like, don't like, and change things that way. Make some nice, good figures and schemes that we haven't talked about yet. We're going to get into that in the coming weeks. Follow the timeline. Okay, so as usual, then we have in-class assignment. And I think tomorrow is the deadline for you to put that up. So I will remind you again that last 4 classes, including this one, you want to upload to the website, and